English teachers, what topic on a write about anything essay made you lose hope in humanity? 4th grade. I was teaching the kids how to write short stories. Kid wrote a story about going to a new school for the first day and being abused by teachers. It was awful. Turns out this kid was being abused by his dad and thought it was normal behavior for adults to act that way. Absolutely heartbreaking. What happened next? I hope the kid's okay. 2 stand out. First one, the prompt was, if you could go back and change one thing from your life, what would it be? A young man wrote about the night his abusive alcoholic dad came home. Apparently from the story, dad came home this way often. The fateful night he wanted to change was the first time he stood up to his dad. Dad came home. Kid defended his mom and dad in a drunken rage left. Dad got into a head-on collision and died. Kid totally blamed himself for his father's death. Second story, the prompt was create a holiday and what the traditions and customs of the holiday were. A student created National Black People Day. I was like, okay, how are you going to celebrate it? She said, by killing white people. I was like, what? She said, yeah, once a year we can kill as many white people as we want. I got the counselor involved in both of them. I teach literature at a college and mostly deal with freshmen and sophomores. For our free writing unit, one of the assignments asked the students to write any original story based on your favorite fictional genre. So, one of my students wanted to do horror. I said, great. That's also a favorite of mine. Go nuts. Eventually, the assignments are turned in, and I'm grading them at home. I get to the kid with the horror story and it's about a serial killer who stalks women. Okay, whatever. Nothing I haven't seen before. But then the story goes into long, excruciating detail about the next victim this killer plans on stalking / raping / murdering, a petite blonde in her early 30s who teaches English. And it just so happens I'm a petite blonde in her early 30s who, well, yeah. I didn't report it or anything, since it was a creative exercise. I didn't grade him unfairly either. But I seriously couldn't look that kid in the eye ever again. Former English adjunct here. One time a student wrote about a first date that went horribly wrong, including running over a cat and having it stuck to his truck tires and then vomiting at dinner. Another one that stands out wasn't a topic, but an assigned research paper. A student maintained that she didn't need sources because God told her the information. She actually cited God as a personal interview in correct MLA format. Our English teacher told us that some guy copied an article from the Italian Wikipedia thinking it was in English. How high do you have to be to not know what your own language looks like? My HS English teacher had to state, due to a submission the year before, that writing about your foot fetish and pleasuring yourself with your feet would not be read or graded. In high school, we had a history essay to write about JFK, and one of my classmates wrote the entire essay by naming him Jane Francois Kennedy. Yes, it was in France. My teacher was so astonished by it, he asked her why she didn't wrote the abbreviation JFK instead of guessing the name. And she answered that she actually thought his name was Jane Francois Kennedy. Who doesn't know his real name is John Fortnite Kennedy? A Catholic high school in my hometown asked for students to write about what they would do if there were no laws or lack of morals. This was inspired by the purge, which had been discussed in ethics class. 12 students were suspended indefinitely, 2 or 3 ended up expelled, the others returned eventually, for what they wrote, ranging from date rape to human trafficking to mass shootings, even though the assignment made it more than obvious that it was a fictional assignment, and by relating it to the purge pretty much goaded students into matching the level of lawlessness. Made national news. There were articles by psychologists for days. They even mentioned the Reddit Ask a Rapist thread and the psychologist's response to not create a feedback forum. Not a single article even came close to suggesting that if you give 17 to 19-year-olds an opening to go against good taste, that most of them would do so for shits and giggles. 2 students, the date rape one and the mass shooting one, did not find another school and did not graduate, or at least had to redo their last year. Here's one I can actually answer. I was teaching an IELTS test prep class to high school aged students in China. One of my students is planning on being a nutritionist, and when I gave her a topic about what she would change if she could be the president for a day, she said that she would imprison everyone who was over a certain BMI until they were thin, and if they were repeat offenders they should spend life in prison for wasting public resources and making healthcare more expensive for everyone else. That's incredibly Chinese. Not a teacher. In high school we got told to write a short horror story. Someone googled short horror story, printed it out, and handed it in. He literally just took a screenshot and printed it so you could see the URL and what he was watching on YouTube. Spoiler, he didn't pass. I'm impressed he reached the level of print screen. To this day I see posts where people capture the screen with their phones. It wasn't write about anything, it was more like create a story. My student, 9 years old, female, wrote about two best friends. They were at the mall when one of them got kidnapped by a villain who put her in a suitcase and took her to London. Everyone searched for her and she was found dead. The villain had murdered her. The police arrested and imprisoned him for 10 years and then killed him. The girl's best friend was really sad and killed herself, and then they lived happy ever after. She is 9 and wrote about kidnap, murder, police violence and suicide, and romanticized suicide edits. Language. Not an English teacher. Just a mother reading over her 10th grader son's essay 2 weeks ago. He had written something to the effect of, heaps of people have heaps of hobbies. So we had a conversation about using more academic language and employing a wider range of vocabulary. I come back 10 minutes later and he'd use the thesaurus function in Word, so it now read, piles of people have mounds of hobbies. Just, wow, your kid is hilarious. When a 16-year-old male student wrote about the fine world of webcamming and how easy it is to make a lot of money off attention-hungry old people. Edit. Okay, since I cannot answer all of you individually, I will try to answer the one main question I keep seeing. Why didn't we report him /it is CP/he is a child? Unfortunately, the age of consent in a lot of places, including where this happened, is 16 years of age, which is why there was nothing we could do about what he wrote. Like I said in my comments, making accusations of a kid whoring himself out isn't what you want to do in this day and age. There would have been a major lawsuit by the parents. Edit 2. Adding info. He wrote a general essay on the topic and was very careful not to use personal pronouns. As much as I wanted to report what he wrote, it was considered a general topic, and we had no proof that he was involved in anything. As I wrote in my comments, when I tried bringing it up to the parents, I was told that he's a good boy who saves all his money from his part-time job. We had to write short stories in high school English. My best friend was struggling for inspiration, so me, self-absorbed teenager, told her to write about me when I'm a beautiful, successful professional ballerina. She took the idea and ran with it, but took a dark turn and had me raped backstage by the director of the ballet company. She showed it to me proudly before class, and when she saw my face as I read it, started backpedaling hard about how it definitely wasn't about me. She just got inspired. Black Swan. My girlfriend and her sister have some pretty daft assignments. The GF got asked to write a paper on any aspect of history, so just wrote about her life up until that point. Her sister got asked to do a presentation on evolution and did it on the 2001 film. The GF got asked to write a paper on any aspect of history, so just wrote about her life up until that point. I got that one myself in 6th grade and did an expanded chronology of every dog my family had owned. I was extra proud of myself because I got to start with a dog named Jack, owned by my great-great-grandfather, who was notable for urinating on the bar of a local saloon and indirectly causing the arrest of 3 men for public disturbance. Well, it wasn't the topic itself, but a student literally cited The Onion as one of his main sources. That was enough to make me lose hope. Edit for clarification, since every other comment is asking this. No, they didn't do it as a joke. It was 100% unironic. They literally used The Onion to support their thesis claim and failed the assignment because it destroyed the entire paper's credibility and argument. I think they got a chance to rewrite though. The paper had lots of problems with it aside from the big fuck up anyway. I've had classmates submit essays copied straight up from Wikipedia including the blue hyperlinks and all. I had a classmate in high school who once did a presentation where he just read his text off a piece of paper. The presentation included the phrase, "As a historian, I." Until last year, my students, 7th grade, ages 12 to 13, had to do a science fair project. They had to create a topic with a testable theory. Does brand X detergent get more stains out than brand Y? This was accompanied with a research report of the topic. I would give the students a sample report I created. Every year, I would tell them not to copy from their sources, and I would easily find out who did. Every year, some literally copy word for word from, of the easiest of sources, Wikipedia. Cue mad parents. Cue exact copies of the report, side by side with the highlighted portions of the report. English tutor here. I had a student in high school who was really struggling with the writing prompts I was giving him. He was studying hybrid genres in school and how to write a hybrid genre short story. So I basically gave him long list of genres, told him to pick any two he wanted and combine them to write a story. He didn't get it. He emailed me asking for clarification, like which topic do I choose here? And I told him he could be as creative as he liked. Pick horror and C/F, pick mystery and crime, pick romance and mystery, whatever strikes your fancy. I literally could not have given him an easier prompt. Then he asks me to give him some examples of hybrid genre stories, so he has an idea of what to write. So I emailed him a list of famous hybrid genre books. For instance, The Martian Chronicles by Ray Bradbury, Gun with occasional music by Jonathan Lethem, Harry Potter, etc. This kid basically latched onto Harry Potter and rewrote the sorting ceremony from Philosopher's Stone, word for word. There was no orientation, no info about his main characters, who were coincidentally also called Harry, Ron, and Hermione. No complication, no climax, no resolution. It was literally just an incomplete retelling of the sorting hat ceremony from the first book. Not only did this kid fail to think of a single creative story idea, he plagiarized one of the most famous books of all time and was daft enough to think I wouldn't notice. It really made me despair.